Welcome, my dear students of class 9A and 9B to my history class. Today's points are as follows. The Tughlaq dynasty, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, disastrous policies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firuz Shah Tughlaq. Now, topic, the Delhi Sultanate, chapter 8. Now I am going to discuss point-wise. First, Tughlaq dynasty. You know, after the disintegration of the last dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate under the Khaljis, a new dynasty was established as the part of the Delhi Sultanate. The new dynasty was Tughlaq dynasty. You know, Khalji dynasty was disintegrated after the death of Alauddin Khilji. Because after the death of Alauddin Khilji, there was none to control the administrative system, to check the attack of the invaders. As a result, Khalji dynasty was disintegrated and Tughlaq dynasty was established. By whom? By Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, the ruler of the Tughlaq dynasty. Ghiyasuddin actually was a very peaceful ruler. He had no strategy, and since he did not have any strategy, he could not extend his empire and remain busy with the areas around Delhi. That very person, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, in 1325 CE, died when a gateway to welcome him on his remarkable, successful Bengal expedition collapsed on him. According to some historians, the entire scheme or plan was engineered by his son Juna Khan, who later assumed the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq and founded the Tughlaq dynasty. No, Tughlaq dynasty was founded by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, the father of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq ascended the throne as soon as his father died in the year 1325 by assuming the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq, but actually his name was Juna Khan. Muhammad bin Tughlaq assumed the title Juna Khan assumed the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq and then ascended the throne in the year 1325. Muhammad bin Tughlaq has been one of the most controversial rulers in medieval history. Why? Because his plannings, his policies, whatever he made, these all were controversial. His disastrous policies obstructed the way of his development. Now, what were these disastrous policies? Later I am going to discuss. He is referred to as a mixture of opposites by the historians. And sometimes some historians also call him as the wise foolish king or wise fool. Now, why is this? Because he was talented. He received education. He received thorough knowledge of different subjects. He was also a mathematician. But he could not apply his intelligence properly. He found out various schemes and ideas. Really, these were practically praiseworthy. But unfortunately, he could not get it realized. Why? Because the schemes failed due to lack of, unity among the people of his country and lack of unity in the military system, in the army. That's why he failed to achieve success. Muhammad bin Tughlaq extended his empire. He made a very large empire. But he could not establish a strong administration throughout the country. Now let us discuss about his disastrous policies. Now I am going to discuss Muhammad bin Tughlaq's disastrous policies. Muhammad bin Tughlaq introduced three disastrous policies. Number one, token currency. What is this? Muhammad bin Tughlaq suddenly introduced copper coins instead of silver. In order to save silver golds in his treasury, he introduced copper coins for the traders, businessmen, and allowed them to use copper coins instead of gold and silver coins. But ultimately, what happened? The consequence of that scheme was very, the consequence of that scheme was very much unsuccessful. Why? Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq held that by way of introducing copper coins, he would be able to save money. He would be able to save gold coins, silver coins of his royal treasury. But he could not realize that copper coins would become counterfeit coins, copper coins would become fake coins. Because many rich people were there, many dishonest businessmen were there, who were allowed to use copper coins instead of silver. Naturally, they started making a number of copper coins from their mint, from their houses. Naturally, people were in a fix, people were in a problem, especially those who were engaged in trade and commerce business and transaction business. They could not use fake coins. They could not differentiate between fake and original copper coins. When Muhammad bin Tughlaq realized it, he immediately withdrew the old system copper coins, and instead of copper coins, once again he introduced silver coins. So it was a great loss of the royal treasury under Muhammad bin Tughlaq. When he felt the situation was beyond control. And second disastrous scheme was taxation on Doab. Doab was a place peasants and farmers cultivated huge quantities of crops due to fertile lands. It was beside the river Ganga. That's why the lands were very much fertile. The lands beside the Ganga was very fertile, and due to fertility of lands, due to fertility, peasants and farmers were able to cultivate bulk quantities of crops from there. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq decided to increase taxes on Doab region, Ganga Doab region, due to fertility of lands, due to bulk production, bulk agricultural productions from the production from there. But when he decided to impose taxes on the peasants and farmers of Doab, Ganga Doab region, the situation was very critical. The region was facing severe drought, and due to crops failure, peasants and farmers denied to pay the extra amount of taxes imposed on them. But the men of Muhammad bin Tughlaq were instructed to collect taxes and revenues forcefully. So they started collecting taxes and revenues forcefully from the peasants and farmers. Muhammad bin Tughlaq did not extend his cooperation, sympathy towards the drought affected area, towards the peasants and farmers of the drought affected area, Ganga Doab region. Far from doing it, he ordered his men to collect taxes and revenues, an extra amount of taxes and revenues imposed on them forcefully, and no concession was given to them due to drought, severe drought. As a result, many peasants and farmers left their places by crossing the Ganga and remain in disguise, and some of them, they started agitation against Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Some of them started plundering because of their poverty and a situation fish out of water. When the news reached Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he became practical and ordered his men not to collect the extra amount of taxes imposed on them forcefully. On the contrary, he gave some economic concessions to the peasants and farmers of Doab, Ganga Doab region. But it was also a great mistake of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So it was also called a disastrous policy or scheme of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And third disastrous scheme was shifting of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. You know, when Muhammad bin Tughlaq ascended the throne, there was a rumor throughout the country that the Mongols were trying to invade Delhi as early as possible. Muhammad bin Tughlaq tried his level best to establish cordial relations with the neighbors, nobles, and distinguished and citizens of Delhi, so that they must cooperate with the Sultan during his trouble or during his financial crisis. But at last Muhammad bin Tughlaq came to a conclusion that Daulatabad would be better capital than Delhi. Why? Because Daulatabad was towards South India. Delhi was in the midst of the country. It was the center of India. So the Mongols might attack Delhi at any time. But if he could shift the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, the Mongols would be unable to reach there because of long distance between Delhi and Daulatabad. That's why he ordered his countrymen to shift all their belongings for Daulatabad. Many of them did not want to shift it, but they were asked to do it forcefully. So while traveling or while going for Daulatabad, many people died. While going for Daulatabad, many people died due to starvation, due to non-availability of water, due to various types of diseases. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq had no mercy for them. And many people died, and rest of them who reached Daulatabad, they felt very much, they felt uneasy, and many of them, they had been suffering from fever and other diseases and about to death. Muhammad bin Tughlaq realized that it was also a great mistake he committed. So once again he ordered his countrymen to get back Delhi. So by way of coming from Delhi to Daulatabad and Daulatabad to Delhi, many people died, many lives were gone due to the mistake of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So it was also called a disastrous scheme of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, shifting of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. That's why Muhammad bin Tughlaq is called foolish king, or wise foolish king, or wise fool by the historians. Muhammad bin Tughlaq's schemes failed because they were not executed properly. And so, historians call Muhammad bin Tughlaq wise fool. Shifting the capital to Delhi, Muhammad bin Tughlaq had a huge empire to rule. So, he decided to shift his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad or Devagiri. Although it was a wise plan, as Daulatabad was more central to the empire and further away from the constant Mongol threatenings or Mongol raids. But the Sultan did not merely shift his court. He demanded that the rulers, the entire population shift from Delhi. How funny. He caused confusion. This matter caused confusion among the people. This matter caused resentment among the people. So many people died during the journey. And finally, the Sultan realized that it was a great mistake. He realized the flaw of the scheme and abandoned the plan. So these were the three disastrous schemes of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And last of all, last point, Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Who was Firoz Shah Tughlaq? Firoz Shah Tughlaq actually came to power or ascended the throne after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He was by blood connection, was the nephew of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a very peaceful ruler. He had no strategy. He could not understand the strategy, the technique, the tactics. But he knew one thing: how to improve the condition of the people, how to improve the people, how to improve the country, how to construct new roads, new buildings, mosques, hospitals, educational institutions like that. That's why he also got it done for the betterment, for making him acceptable to the people, for gaining popularity from the people. He did it. He constructed a number of wells, a number of tanks. He improved the system of irrigation. He tried his level best to strengthen and justify his position by upholding the Muslims' law, and thereby he gained the support of the ulemas. He imposed the jizya tax on the non-Muslims. He instituted scholarship for Muslim teachers and gave financial help to widows. About 300 new towns were built during his reign. 300 new towns were built during his reign. So it was a wonderful effort of Firoz Shah Tughlaq he did. He built the new cities of Hisar, Jaunpur and Fatehbad. He created a new capital. He created a new capital in Delhi called Firozabad. Means now it is Firoz Shah Kotla. He also created over 1,000 well-led out gardens. Despite all these achievements, by the time he passed away in the year 1388 CE, my dear students. So the entire empire's administrative system had already started showing signs of weakness and failure. Because after Firoz Shah Tughlaq, there was none to look after it. Firoz Shah's successors were unable to keep the empire together, and soon independent rulers and Zagirdars they began to break away from the empire till very little remained of the Tughlaq empire. And thus Tughlaq empire came to an end. The glory and image of the Tughlaq empire came to an end. The final blow came when Timur Lang invaded Delhi in the year 1398 CE, my dear students. So this is about the Tughlaq dynasty. Next day I shall discuss about the Sayyid dynasty, Lodi dynasty, and their administrative system, achievements, and their contributions in the field of education, in the field of cultural achievements, in the field of cultural achievements, and in the field of in the field of religious improvement, religious upliftment. These are the points. Next day I am going to discuss from Sayyid and Lodi dynasty. Up to this, my dear students, thank you.